Every couple has things they hate to do, they grumble and whinge, but inevitably get on with the task at hand. Anna hated to cook roast chicken, but Max loved it when she did, so naturally she did it at least once a week. There was always so much sinewy mess at the end that just seemed to linger, the fat, the stocky smell of salt. He said it felt like home, she thought it felt stifling. They both worked hard every day, allowing the other space to prioritize their careers like good modern millennials. Deep down, he felt the publishing house was a glorified hobby for her, though ultimately she paid the mortgage. She empathized with the long hours the law firm demanded of him, though he ultimately didn't push back. Part of the pleasure was knowing he was needed. His only real escape, however, was to run, long and hard and alone. He didn't care where, as long as the running happened each day his role in life could be fulfilled. The Pritchards next door had a small chicken coop. Its resident rooster, Graham, became Max's wake-up call, to step out into the dark morning and beat the pavement. He'd think about nothing. Life was progressing just how it should, just how he'd been told it would. On his way home, he'd pep some pictures for their joint Instagram account. It was Max's brainchild, but Anna placated the dance they played out online, because she knew he loved being loved. Another outwardly perfect life panned out online for people to pine for. One cooler than normal Thursday in July, an elated Max returned to their Shoreditch flat, eggs from Graham's harem in hand and a London Marathon ballot place proudly displayed as if it were last night's winning EuroMillions ticket. She supposed for him it was, and smiled as he clucked around the flat in a celebratory pair of new sneakers. He asked for roast chicken that night and they made quiet love on the sofa whilst watching Chariots of Fire on Amazon Prime. As he slept, Anna started to reluctantly simmer the empty chicken carcass. Once out of eyesight and earshot, she quietly unfolded the letter which came for her earlier that day, reading it again heatedly whilst remaining frozen in place. She proceeded to tuck the paper into the recipe book her grandmother had handed down when they moved in together, pre-preparing her for a brood of her own. It wasn't the right time to bring it up, not after the marathon news, it could wait. The rigorous training for the 42.2 began and they both took some joy in the process. Anna threw herself into nutrition, exploring every health food shop from Wapping to Whitechapel, finding the next big thing that would give her boy the competitive edge. The Pritchards were recruited to the task force, along with Mrs. Pollard down the road, who grew beetroot like it was going out of fashion. Unfortunately, the morning beetroot juices soon stopped after Anna was asked unceremonially to step back from a book pitch because she came to work with purple fingers. The days got longer, and so did the running. Anna asked her grandparents to bring an old Dutch bicycle down from their family home on the Norwich coast so she could keep Max company. She would cycle a few meters behind him, bound together but never too close, his heavy breath rhythmic and rattled as each foot strained to remain on the floor. He knew running could bring them together, bring them a shared passion they could talk about. He knew she'd get on board. As the nights got longer, the bike with the basket came out less and less, and she took to sitting on a bench in Victoria Park to watch him run laps, his own makeshift hamster wheel. He was so wildly dedicated to the cause, to anything he put his mind to. It's why she'd fallen in love with him, his hunger, his desire, his passion to achieve anything he thought he was capable of. He used to be hungry for her, but she supposed hunger soon gets satisfied. She was his roast chicken, a dependable staple that tasted the same no matter how you cooked it. The letter in the tattered cookbook continued to sit dormant, though it was quickly joined by another chaser. She had until spring to decide, so hoped she could run away until then. When the third letter came, she didn't hide it with the rest, just shredded it into the compost bin along with the chicken carcass from the previous night. The bone broth she'd lovingly made lay cloudy in the kitchen. With careful love and attention it would clear up, but for now it was impossible to see to the bottom of the pan, impossible to know what to do or what the right decision was, other than to just keep stirring and hope for some clarity. Crocuses and snowdrops came and went, daffodils appeared, and race day rolled into view. He felt good, he felt prepared. In the week running up to the race, Max struggled to contain himself. Visible excitement appeared on the boy's face, lining up to select his race number, picking up his race pack, queuing for an extortionary long time to get a picture next to the London Marathon sign, queuing again to get a picture next to his name on the entrance wall. On race day morning, he excitedly requested lucky scrambled eggs from Graham's harem. Anna obliged as always but neglected to confirm the eggs' lineage. She looked up in silent prayer. The poor Pritchard's coop now lay dormant after a fox messily beheaded their entire clutch 6 nights previously. She didn't want him to think it bad luck for the race, so the omen instead clung to her, another secret to stash away for another day. The marathon came and went without a hitch. He breezed the race, collecting an admirable finish time, which was 3 minutes ahead of his target, no doubt leading to thoughts of another target time to beat next year. She met him by Trafalgar Square and handed him a spare change of clothes, the medal remaining firmly attached to his chest as a badge of honor. She packed away the soiled outfit and trotted behind the hero as he strode towards his favorite café. They sat in the window, a perfect couple framed by light, a picture of happiness to every heavy-trodden pedestrian roaming the post-marathon streets. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. The place was small but popular. Waitresses had to dive in and out of tête-à-tête tables to let each other past, with plates raised above their heads. The pang of smoke and alcohol filled the space with warmth. The menu had recently changed. A range of specials listed on the board behind already had a few popular options scratched out. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. He hurried her to decide from the menu, but it was hard. It was easy for him. He knew what he wanted. He wanted her at home every day to cook for him and praise him when he increased his bow to max. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. She kept thinking of the chicken he'd no doubt ask her to cook tomorrow, and how many she might be asked to cook in her entire lifetime. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. The letter at home burnt the back of her mind, 2 versions of a future stuck together. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. She stared at the menu for answers, not noticing Max rummaging around in his inside pockets. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. A waitress turned on a sixpence to pick up a dish on the pass and collided loudly with another waitress who had gotten there first. A baby chicken lay on the floor, wet and alone, unable to be salvaged. There was number 5-second rule that could bring this one back to life. 1 baby chicken for 2, order up. She looked up and slowly slid a piece of paper across the table at him, the Pratt Institute School of Design visible on the letterhead. She hadn't noticed him do the same, but with a ring box from his inside pocket. They both stared at the items presented, neither knowing what to say. Each presented a path, a future, an opportunity, a fate. They were signs to mark a hefty fork in the road, which they inevitably had to decide on which route to take. He thought this is what she'd wanted. What every 30-something woman wanted, surely? I just don't want a baby chicken was all she could seem to say in response. From the window outside the couple looked serene, the perfect picture into a not-so-perfect partnership. When they began the slow journey home, she wondered if he knew she'd already packed her bags. She'd been doing it for weeks without him even noticing. She could taste salt in her mouth as she jogged around the lake in Central Park, the air warm and thick with the signs of summer. When she left she'd cried every night, mourning the life she'd built and then thrown away, for the possibilities that would now never come to pass. One evening she'd walked the entire length of Central Park alone, tears primed and ready. Without warning she'd started running from her feelings, from the life she'd left, from the life she'd thought she was starting, just away from it all. Ironically, it felt good. She thought of Max across the sea, somewhere the next continent along, probably in the same moment running away from his feelings just like her. She smiled. As painful as it was, they were both now free, finally able to run towards a future they both wanted and deserved. Her future just so happened to be a vegetarian one. They got it wrong. The earth was flat all along. And moments after sinking into her overworn running shoes and stretching her calves like a cat shaking off sleep, Lori had the proof. It's not that she was a maniac who liked running. The morning run was a longtime nemesis, the Moriarty to her homes. It proved rather unfortunate that this daily medieval torture provided the only cure to her abstinence. 3 months. No boyfriend, dumped. Tear-soaked pillowcases and far too many empty Ben and Jerry's pints. Real Housewives, 10 pounds of extra breakup weight. Worst of all, no sex. And to the people who say you don't need sex to feel something, to those indefatigable stoics who may or may not enjoy golf, to the ones who get a little jolt from a good old scented candle, shut the fuck up. It was by complete accident that Lori learned the ancient art of getting off in the most unusual way possible. If you know, you know. 37 minutes deep into her mother's insistence that she run off some steam, dry her tears, and maybe eat a banana afterwards, Lori, drenched in enough salt to give the Molly Empire a run for its money, felt that familiar tug into sin. A trickle of sweat skated the valley of her shoulder blades, and this time she sensed every inch of surface it covered. Left right and her legs, charmed by repetition into numbness, suddenly condensed at the apex of her thighs like the point of AV. She broke into a sprint, propelled on an endorphin wave rolling her up that hill only the weird marathon guy could run without severe angina. And there it was, that spot, and that anticipated ripple, and that shudder that left a wet streak at the corner of her eye, and oh that rush separating dermis from epidermis and filling the space with sweet, slick, and could it be? From running? From that point on Lori never missed a morning alarm. 6 am sharp and the running shoes were laced, the deodorant slapped on errantly, hair thrown into careless nestery. Her mother puzzled over the quick turnaround. Heartbroken, bedridden daughter turned excitable, morning person with life-together tendencies seemingly overnight. Were medical professionals seeing similar cases? Perhaps a wellness pandemic underway? But Lori was beyond well, returning red-faced with satisfied rictus, borderline discordant in its intensity. The hours between runs grew shorter, spliced by an inconsolable itch for the tightness of athletic clothes, the pounding of feet on the pavement, and the thrusting of hips on verge of a euphoric sprint. Lori fantasized about smelly socks, shin splints, and blood blisters. She snorted musk cocaine-esque, and God, she loved ripping the underwear off her exhausted, beaten body when she was done. What began as a foray into emotional self-regulation steadily colonized Lori's quotidian life from morning to night. Running. Miles and miles. Without end, but certainly, with finish. 1 finish, 2 finishes, 3 or 4 if blessed by the stroke of luck. Her knees began to pop, bruising green-yellow as the cap slipped in and out of place. Lori wiggled it around, desperate to seduce into obedience. Before long, Lori's body grew hard, engorged. Her muscles lithe, but joints straining to sustain them. She taped the sinews of her back, wrapped her ankles in gossamer straps of gauze. The calluses on her feet expanded and coarsened like layers of drying papier-mâché. For an extra kick, she would peel the dead skin and stab under the rubber with the tip of a nail clipper. The more she moaned, the more she moaned. Of course, through all of this, Lori had no inkling she was going too far, crossing some line or edge invisibly inscribed by common sense. It seemed to her that she could run forever, traverse Route 66, run on water like Jesus braving the Pacific, conquer Eurasia in a pair of Nike Flyknits 3. Despite the increasing effort involved in stitching her ligaments together to form a half-functioning human body, there was none involved in summoning the running spirit seated in filthy, divine, unfiltered sexual drive. So, on the morning of her downfall, and I mean this literally, that intuitive, built-in, "you're in danger" radar in Lori's gut failed miserably. It may not have existed at all. She proceeded, tying her laces with practiced fingers, caressing the aglets as a finishing touch. She followed her usual path, starting slow with a sensual jog, no fun without foreplay. Her right Achilles tendon twitched as her heel flattened the flesh of her shoe. Her hamstring whined, readily aching for punishment. She picked up speed, and that was when it began. She smelled at first, like rotting fish on the bay shore. Carrion birds circling the beach, munching on the stink. Plumes of it invaded her nose, and shot straight to her brain like a hit of formaldehyde. It made her dizzy, and she blinked rapidly, road flickering in her field of vision. Then, she heard it. The sounds of asteroids zipping, colliding. A few crashed on her path, and she stumbled in recoil. What was this, the end of the world? She breathed with resolve, knowing there were only two circumstances under which she would stop running and jeopardize her orgasmic reward. 1. She dropped dead. 2. An alien UFO abducted her and transported her to Mars, where she would indubitably continue running, albeit slower, under lighter gravitational conditions. Lori's surroundings suggested the latter was underway. The neighborhood houses disappeared, the asphalt melted off, an unfamiliar environment with the exception of constant, amber horizon. The air thinned and sky oscillated between colors as if unsure of itself or parodying aurora borealis. All around Lori, waves began to crash, but failed to reach her. The temperature of Lori's body climbed steeply, sweat leaking from every pore. Lori checked her watch. The number 6,000 flashed in red letters. 6,000 hours? Or days? Or months? There was no way of knowing how long she'd been running. Lori's legs refused to surrender. Her hair stood on end, the tension straining in her core. If she kept going, this would be the best one yet. Lori's eyes glassed over, heart breaking through the notches in her ribs. Strips of atmosphere fell at her feet, detonating weightlessly, and expelling streams of water like geysers, flushing the earth. It occurred to Lori that she was approaching a cliff. She would not stop now. She was so close. At the edge, the world paired off without warning. A premature period to a half-finished sentence. Lori saw this too late to dull the momentum of her oncoming climax. In her final step, an onlooker would note that she hovered for a moment, as if clinging on to empty, unrealized hope. And just like that, Lori fell off the edge of the earth. There was no epilogue. No sphericity to round out bitter failure, like sugar from a spoon. Gravity did the trick. Lori did the rest, still running towards an aimless end, still drunk in hope the earth would turn over on its belly and pull her back from the edge.